Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadtoroota.com. Friday afternoon, couple thoughts and comments. We can all breathe safely this weekend about the banking collapse. We can all breathe safely next week, the entire week. There will be no banking collapse. There will be no crash in the system. There will be no anarchy in the streets of America. Because Trump's on a road trip. He's hit the road to Ruta. But it's a really big road trip, and it's his first one, but he's hitting all these very, very, very big decision-maker points and spots around the world. And then he comes home. This might be his one and only overseas trip, just considering who he is meeting with. And let me give you a quick rundown. Trump is leaving, I believe, tomorrow. No, he leaves today and arrives in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Saudi Arabia is huge in the game of keeping the U.S. dollar alive with the petrodollar, and they invest. Basically, the deal was struck with Kissinger and the Saudis back in the 70s that the Saudis would only sell oil in U.S. dollars, along with other people. And that's how they kept artificial demand going for the U.S. dollar. It meant that every country around the world had to keep reserves in U.S. dollars if they wanted to buy oil. So it's been a huge part. And then also part of that agreement was that the Saudis would reinvest that money in U.S. companies, the U.S. stock market, U.S. bond market, wherever it needed to be invested. It was like a slush fund, much like the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And Saudi Arabia was set up to do that, and that has been their role for the past 45, almost 50 years. And that is ending now with the new administration. So the very first place Trump is going is Saudi Arabia, most likely to tell them the game is up, it's over. Thank you for your help in rigging the markets for the last 50 years, but we're going to try a different tack now. We're going to go back to our Constitution, hopefully. And then he leaves Saudi Arabia and goes to Israel on May 22nd. If you know anything about banking, Israel's in charge of banking for the world. Just look at the head of every single bank in the United States, and you'll understand just how much Israel has control over the banking system, the monetary system. The guy who runs the Federal Reserve is not Janet Yellen. She's just a figurehead. The number two guy is Stanley Fischer. Stanley Fischer is a dual citizen, Israel and the United States. He was, for I think decades, the lead central banker of the Israeli central bank. That's why he was put as number two guy in the U.S., and he, if there is a guy within the Federal Reserve that you can call a bad guy, it would be Stanley Fischer. And that, I believe Trump is going to Israel to tell him that game is over as well. So those are two very, very, very important meetings that Trump has to have overseas before the final plug is pulled and everything comes crashing down and gets reorganized. And then the third place he's visiting on Wednesday is the Vatican. And he's meeting with the Pope. And those of you who didn't know, the Pope is knee-deep in this financial rigging and stuff that's been going on, controlling the financial system behind the scenes. And I believe, especially in the gold markets, the U.S. keeps borrowing gold from the Vatican. Nobody knows if the Vatican has any gold left, but we do know they're knee-deep in derivatives. Yes, the Vatican is knee-deep in derivatives through Monte dei Paschi and Deutsche Bank. And we've heard a lot about that combination of banks being in deep, deep, deep trouble with their derivative book. So yeah, those are the first three. I'm going to talk about hitting the biggies right away. Saudi Arabia, Israel, and then the Pope. And then after that, he goes to meet with everybody at NATO in Brussels on Thursday the 25th. It's a big NATO meeting, and Trump is there, and probably relay his plans to the rest of the world, that the end of this game that the criminals are playing is over. And the plug is about to be pulled on the monetary system, on the bad guys' control of us, on the media, and on the criminals that need to be arrested in Washington. So yeah, it's a great little trip he's taken if you look at who he's meeting and where he's going. And then after that, he goes to a summit in Sicily, the G7 summit. G7, the biggest countries in the world who are going to run with this ball game after the crash of the system. Probably going to relay a message to them as well that this game is over, and he's going to pull the plug because he has the power to do that. All it takes is a click of a mouse in the basement of the Treasury to do that. But during his trip, nothing's going to happen. So we got 7 days to just sit and twiddle our thumbs. And Steve Mnuchin is in the basement of the Treasury right now, clicking all the buttons to make sure everything goes. You notice the stock market went up after everybody said, "Oh my God, it's crashing finally," and then it's up today. Why? Because Steve Mnuchin said, "Click, click, 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 click." Stock market's back up, and silver's under control, gold's under control. I think those two will be the canaries in the coal mine, and I would expect them to really start running when Trump gets back. So we'll see what happens there. The commercial short position on the COMEX is at that point where all the shorts that could be covered have been covered. So it's ready to run at any moment's time. I think they're going to hold off until Trump gets back. And he gets back. He goes back to Italy. Oh, he's in Italy for the G7. Then he meets with the U.S. military personnel in Italy. And then he heads home on Saturday, the 27th. So get ready for some action on the in June, 1st of June. We're going to get some action, probably a lull through July as usual. Maybe some fireworks before July. End of the quarter is always exciting. And for those of you who have cryptocurrencies and are all excited about it, be careful. These are hugely rigged markets. And they can rig it with news, fake news. The Mt. Gox debacle was, they didn't lose, 650,000 Bitcoin. It was a game. It was a planned slam down because they didn't want Bitcoin to run yet. And so it was planned, and they can do that. They can control the system anyway. So there's a lot of speculators getting in now, all excited. Oh my God, I'm making so much money trading these altcoins and the cryptocurrencies. You're ready to lose it all. And it'll happen in a blink of an eye, and you won't be able to react. The big guys, all they have to do is sell a chunk of their position, and everybody scrambles for the door, and we've seen it a million times in Bitcoin. And then they announce some news that the blockchain is dead, everything died, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets, cut in half, and then it starts up again. So I expect it. You got to expect it to happen. If you're a trader, you love this stuff because it can crash and you load up and things like that. If you're a trader, a big trader who knows what's going to happen ahead of time, like JP Morgan absolutely is knee deep in the cryptocurrencies, you can plan ahead of time and fleece, get as much revenue from these the little guys as you can. So it's one of those things you need to sit and wait. I hate to say it, it's just like gold and silver. You just got to get your position, sit and wait. Unless you think you can trade with the big banks and with the hedge funds that are going to be rigging the cryptocurrencies very soon. Good luck. Good luck with that. I know for a fact that I can't do it, and but I do have a sense of where they're going to slam. They'll probably slam up near 2,000. They like to slam around the big round numbers, but also $2,400 for Bitcoin is double the Mt. Gox high. They'll be looking to slam there, and their slams is they'll just dump a whole bunch of real Bitcoin. Well, not real Bitcoin. They'll go to the exchanges and dump Bitcoin, and that's not real Bitcoin. That's just it's electronic blips, just like the COMEX. Yes, they are derivative markets. The exchanges. The only time they go on the blockchain is when you take your Bitcoin out or you put Bitcoin in. Those are the only transactions on the blockchain. Everything else is within the exchange. Same with Coinbase, same with all the online wallets. Make sure you have your Bitcoin on your own possession, just like silver. Because when the banks crash, these companies aren't going to be around. Coinbase is not going to be around. A lot of the online wallets they're not going to be around. None of them will be around. They all have to pay their employees with fiat money. When their banks crash, they crash, and you'll be part of the bankruptcy proceeding for the next 10 years and never be able to touch your Bitcoin, just like in Mt. Gox. So just get it out. print out a paper wallet. Here's two. These are what paper wallets look like. And all they are, is that upside down? No, either which way. There's a whole bunch. This is a Bitcoin one, and this is Ethereum. I like to use my Ether wallet, myetherwallet.com. These aren't, there's nothing on it, so it doesn't matter if you scan it. But yeah, and practice with the little tiny fractions of, practice with $1. How to put it on the paper wallet, take it off, and all the paper wallet is, if you can see it, is two addresses. There's a public address and there's a private address. The private address is what you need to get your coins back into an online wallet if you want to trade it, sell it, transfer it somewhere else. And same with the Bitcoin, a public and a private, and the address is those codes, and they go together. That's what a wallet is. It's a public code, or a public address, and a private address, or public key and a private key. You can call it anything you want, and that's how it's done. And all the other cryptos, it gets a little more confusing to get it offline. It can be done. I've done Ripple. I've done a Ripple wallet. I brought it offline and I brought it back online, and just to try it out and see if it works. It worked just fine. But again, any of these online companies, if there's a company between you and your Bitcoin, or you and your Ethereum, or you and your Ripple coin, and the banks crash, you can kiss that coin goodbye. And that's another interesting thing. Well, you'll kiss it goodbye for a few reasons. One, the company will be in bankruptcy and won't be allowed to give anything back. It's kind of like Mt. Gox. They can't. Once you declare bankruptcy, you cannot give anyone their money back. But what happens with the cryptocurrencies is that people steal it, and it's very easy to steal. They, print out a bunch of wallets, and no one can find them. So the owners or controllers, whoever controls the Bitcoin, can get access to it. Will steal it. Also, getting access. We already know that the government is in every electronic device, so unless you created your paper wallets offline, they know your private code and public code, and will they use it? I don't know. They could. And then also, if a lot of people make the mistake of not checking your cookies and see what's saved on your computer. Go online, and there's a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do it securely. But a really interesting thing is most printers are Wi-Fi based, and a lot of them have memory and storage. So yeah, if it's Wi-Fi, then the government has your data. I would say get a printer that you can use a cable, so you don't have to send it Wi-Fi. Everything can be off, and make sure your printer doesn't have storage in it. I mean, you can take it to the nth degree, the security. And at some point, it might not matter if too many people get their Bitcoin stolen because of security. Say the NSA or the CIA steal everybody's private address that was online. That would be a problem for the Bitcoin community in general, because all of a sudden it's still a faith-based system, and people got to trust it. If everybody loses their Bitcoin, or 90% of the people lose their Bitcoin, they're not going to trust the system anymore, and Bitcoin will drop to zero. So yes, there is still faith and trust. My estimation is when the banks shut down, a lot of people will lose their Bitcoin who have them in a third-party storage online at Coinbase or in an online wallet. A lot of people will lose it and lose it forever. Be it lost on their computers or lost in the stolen by somebody else. What would that do for Bitcoin if enough people still have theirs and enough people are still using it? That would mean there's less coins in circulation, so it should up the price and value of Bitcoin in an odd way. So if you do have Bitcoin or any other alt currency, make sure you have possession of them and nobody can get them and nobody can steal them from you. Very important, especially if what I think is going to happen to the alt currencies, as in go hyperinflate along with gold and silver as the banks print money to cover up problems. And the problems are coming. We're hearing about it in China already, and in Venezuela, obviously, Brazil, Europe, Italy, Germany, and it'll come to the United States and hit full force. JP Morgan, $48 trillion in derivatives. So don't think that we're immune to anything. So I do expect hyperinflation to hit the cryptocurrencies with a lot of volatility. And the big guys want in, they want a bigger chunk of the pie, so they're going to slam the price down at some point and say, oh, Bitcoin's dead, all the alt currencies are dead. And then you'll probably sell. Most people sell in the crashes, and then they kick themselves as it goes up the next time, because it goes up very fast. After the selling is done, all of a sudden it'll rocket up, and you're seeing that right now. After the last orchestrated sell, which was the refusal of the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF. Price of Bitcoin went from $1,200 down to $800. Completely orchestrated, slam, timing, everything. Then the news, it was all done amongst the banksters with the help of the regulators as usual. So banksters loaded up at below $900. They were just piling up, and then they ran it up again. So that's how the game's played. Just be ready to ride anything out if you are a holder, and hold it in your own possession. That's it. I am publishing the Friday Road Trip for private road members. If you want to become a private road member, go to roadtoruta.com, and I'll send you $30 of hard copy Bitcoin mailed to your front door with every annual subscription or renewal. Pretty good deal, especially those people who got about a year ago when Bitcoin has gone up almost 10 times. So it kind of pays for the subscription. Anyway, this is Weir. We'll talk to you later.